So AI is one of the big new things with ChatGPT and everything. It's been blowing up all over the web, and obviously Microsoft has recently invested a lot in it and is adding it to Bing. Now, I wanted to go over this because I think, well, it's a good technology, should definitely be investigated and improved upon. It has some flaws. And the flaws, well, basically, it's not going to be able to replace professionals in a way. It's going to be able to help, and it's definitely more useful when you're being able to communicate it. But for example, here, one of the things with Microsoft, if you have Windows 10, says introducing the new Bing, and one of the things, see what the new Bing can do. You can click and it says write the code to find the Fibonacci sequence in Python. That is what is here. And this is one possible solution, and possible honestly should be put in quotation marks, because well, this technically works and is good. Anybody who's coded or knows a lot about code and does this professionally knows why this is a bad solution. It is terrible, awful, actually. It functionally works. The reason it is bad is because it's slow. It is immensely slow. And the reason it is slow is because it's recursive and it's computing things multiple times. For example, let's say I wanted the fifth Fibonacci number, which first, in this example, it has the 0 being the 0th Fibonacci number, and the first one being 1, second one will also be 1, third one would be 2, fourth one would be 3, fifth one would be 5. So let's just go through this. What does this have to compute to calculate the fifth Fibonacci number? Well, when you to calculate it, we just call Fibonacci 5. Okay, so Fibonacci 5 is called. Cool. It's not 0, it's not 1, so it goes to the recursive case. What is Fibonacci 5 calling? Fibonacci 5 is calling Fibonacci 4, because 5 minus 1 is 4, and 5 minus 2 is 3. So Fibonacci 4 and Fibonacci 3. So keep note of that. 5 has called 4 and 3. Now let's look at the 4 call. What does 4 call? Well, 4 calls Fibonacci 3 and Fibonacci 2. And there's the problem. Fibonacci 3 is being called twice. What does that mean? That means to calculate it, the fifth Fibonacci number, you're going to have to calculate the third Fibonacci number twice because of how it's done. Because to calculate the fourth Fibonacci number, which is needed for the fifth one, you have to calculate the third one. And you need the third one separately for the fifth one. And that's waste. Like, you shouldn't need to calculate that twice. It's bad. Not only is it bad, I think it's not even exponential. I think it's factorial in size. Like, it explodes. It is fast. Opposite. Not fast. Slow as hell. How would you do it? Out of curiosity here, let me just bring up a notepad. Actually, here, I did not set this up correctly. So here's a notepad. So as we noticed before, F, 5, so we'll just do F5 for Fibonacci. That calls F3 and F4. F4 calls F3 and F2. Thus, we can say that F5 really, when it's calling F4, it's really calling F3 and F2, and you can see this is where it has like the double thing. By the way, F3 needs to call F2 and F1, so 2 is calculated twice and 1 is calculated multiple times, and it's bad. We've gone over that. How would you do this? Well, let's just say we have 3 variables. Number 1, number 2, and number 3. And number 1, let's say that'll be our 0th Fibonacci number. So that equals 0. Num2 equals 1, and let's just say, let's actually let's call this f of n, kind of to actually like put it a bit more formally. So if n is equal to 0, return num1. If n is equal to 1, return num2. What if it's higher than that? Well, this is what we do if it's higher than that. We need to basically, think here, it's gonna take a second for me to think this through. Basically, how we're gonna do is we're gonna do a num3 equals num1 plus num2. And then we can say that num1 equals num2, and num2 equals num3, and then n minus, we'll just, n equals, we'll write it explicitly because some of you might not know programming. And we'll just say this, well, n is greater than 0, even though it's not, the return function is going to end it anyways. This will work, and this will not be double counting. And the reason it works is, so let's say n equals 2, so we want to calculate f of n. Well, this is the 0th, this is the first one, so the second one is them added together. And this is a section. It basically, we only need like the previous 2 numbers, so we don't, once we've calculated the second number, to calculate the third number, we only need the first and second one, so this kind of gets rid of that 0th one and moves it down. And then the n equals n minus 1 is just keeping track of when we need to actually return number 2. So if n equals 2, here n would be 1, the while loop would start over, it would see that it's 1, and it would return the num2, which is our third number because of this line here. And this, if we say f of 5, we'll calculate f of 2 here. The next time around, since this will be f of 1 and this will be f of 2 because of these 2 lines here, it'll be calculating f of 3, then f of 4, then f of 5, and it only calculates it once. Well, if we go back to this example here, it's calculating it multiple times. And the thing is if you're asking this question or similar questions of an AI bot, you probably do not have the understanding or the knowledge to call it out on a not so great answer. It's not a wrong answer what it gives here. It's just not really the best. And giving an answer like this kinda misses the whole point of writing an algorithm. It working is not the minimum bar when you write an algorithm. There's actually a harder minimum bar. It has to work within reasonable time. If it takes the entire universe's time to run your damn code is useless because we don't have that time. We need people used to do the math before we had computers to do the math. How did we do taxes before computers? Like, how did the government do it? They hired a bunch of people to sit down and do the math. The only reason we brought computers is to speed things up. So if the algorithms we're writing is slow, we're missing the whole point, the whole reason we actually invented computers. And it just makes you think, if this answer has a sub like a subpar, what other types of questions can it give? For example, if let's say you're building a PC and you're asking it for parts, are you going to get are you going to get parts that work together and like they work and everything? When you build it, it's going to function. It's just going to be like, for the money you're purchasing for, is it going to be actually bad, like very crap? It's a lot of things. Asking any question about something, is something okay, is something say, there's a lot to be careful of here. And it also is kind of disappointing to me that the example Microsoft gives to try out their Bing AI powered Copilot for the web is one that's not so great.